Hail Oxal, my tribe, and welcome to the Modern Barbarian Podcast. This week, I want to discuss a change in mindset in the modern world that is taking us further away from what we are supposed to be as a species. This mindset is weakening humanity as a whole, leading to a shift away from masculinity for men and a shift towards a weaker and more docile society. What mindset could I possibly be talking about? The modern safety culture. So, what is the modern safety culture? It is the belief that anything dangerous is negative, where they try to remove all sense of danger and all possibility of danger from every aspect of life. We're going to discuss why this is a bad thing, why some danger is absolutely necessary, and what risk you should be willing to take. So, how is the modern safety culture hindering us as a species? Well, let's start with a few points. The first is that it is slowing or eliminating human adaptation. Human adaptation is what made us the dominant species on this planet. Sadly, the safety culture is eliminating this adaptation. No longer do we let the weak die and the strong survive. Modern medicine and a culture of risk aversion are allowing the weak to outprocreate the strong. What do I mean by that? Well, in the old days, adaptation led to improvements in the gene pool, right? The weak naturally died. So those that were more likely to be sickly, those that were not strong enough to do the necessary deeds that they needed to do to survive, those that had weak mindsets or, other flaws that we have preserved in modern society. Though the weak are no longer left to falter and fall off and drive the adaptation to better the species. So what we get is this culture of risk aversion where these weaker people drive this anti-risk mindset because they can't handle these risks. Their bodies are not strong enough to handle these risks, or they can't stand to be around somebody that's sick because they'll die because their immune system's all messed up or whatever it is. So we have this huge risk aversion built into our society. And if you look at it, what generally happens is the stronger side has goals that don't align with certain political views, and they tend to have smaller families. They tend to wait later in life to have their kids, and so they build a career and have fewer children, and then there's less of them because they are not recreating as fast and raising as many children. Whereas you look at the other side of the coin, the safety minded, safety culture people that are afraid of every risk for the most part tend to not be afraid of the sexual risk as much, and they procreate rapidly. They'll have many children, uh, three or four, use the system to take care of them, and they outproduce the, what's the right term here? They outproduce the people that are the stronger set of people, right? So when you allow that to happen, you create a flood in the gene pool of the weaker genes. So it drags the species down as a whole, right? Whereas you look at animal kingdom right now, and I know we can't compare ourselves to animals. We're smarter than that, and we're not animals. We're humans. The fuck out of here. Humans are just a little bit smarter animal because human adaptation allowed us to grow a bigger brain, right? But we're fucking that up really badly. So we're causing suboptimal genes to spread through the gene pool at an exponential rate. And as you look at it, you can see that. It's Exponential rate means it starts here and it keeps going faster and faster and faster and faster until it's out of control, right? And we're nearing the out of control point. But like I said, look at the animal kingdom and the way that they work. The weak of a species die. They don't carry their weak around and try to preserve them. And of course, children and those that are growing up, that's different. I'm talking about, fully grown adults here. If they're not contributing, they get left behind. And they either figure out how to survive on their own or they fucking die. And that's just all there is to it. Right? But we don't allow that to happen in humanity anymore. We don't allow the weak to die. We don't allow the weak to suffer and learn from those mistakes. Because that's what typically happens. Before they die, they suffer. And they learn from the mistake, and they get better, and they change, and they adapt. Because everything wants to live. But we don't allow that to happen anymore. People are allowed to be weak. Hell, they're encouraged to be weak. And the system will take care of you, right? Some may argue that this is adaptation to social norms, but I would disagree. Adaptation requires a willingness to let those that lack certain traits fail, which in the game of life sometimes means death. And nobody is willing to let people fail anymore, so no suboptimal traits are stopped from spreading. This stops all positive adaptation. Now, I know that there are some out there that disagree with my philosophy on positive adaptation. They think the direction that humanity is going is positive adaptation. I strongly disagree. A culture that goes away from the ability to protect itself, from strength, from mental toughness, from fortitude, from drive, and the want to be better. A culture that gets away from that is, we'll talk about it later in the episode. I have a really good description for it, but it's not a good thing. So this lack of adaptation will eventually be the undoing of all mankind if it's not stopped. But luckily, some of us still exist that don't fall into this trap. We raise strong children, we live the mythic lifestyle, and are role models for our tribe. This is the only weapons that we have against the coming cultural storm. Mythic lives, right? If you look throughout history, there has always been the mythological stories. There's always been the heroes. There's always been the people that go out and do the hard things. They train themselves, they prepare themselves, and they go out and do the hard things. They get to go out and be and live the hero life. Even though not everybody agreed that they were a hero. They lived the mythic lifestyle. They did the things. Right? And that's an important piece. You have to actually go out there and do stuff. You have to live the mythic lifestyle. Sitting in your recliner in your house, watching other people do cool shit on TV is not living. So, the next thing. Putting fear of common things into everyday life. Point number 2. How safety culture is destroying our country. Well, not just our country, right? It's more than our country. They're destroying the entire culture by putting fear of common things into everyday life. So as negative traits become idolized, victim mentalities, being risk averse, not being toxically masculine, right? As these become idolized traits, they begin to be seen as role models for the young, creating new generations of weak men with no stomach for risk. This causes people to fear what used to be commonplace. People are now afraid of the outdoors, of hunting, of growing their own food, of learning to fight, and any other dangerous skills that people would normally participate in, right? There's a fear of these things. People have an adverse fear of being hit, like taking a punch. I've taken a bunch of punches, and I'm not dead. I'm not brain damaged. I'm not stupid. Like, nothing negative happened to me. I know that I can do that now, so I don't have to fear that. I've learned to overcome that. I'm betting that most of you listening to this have probably learned that too. But when's the last time you actually went and trained and got hit? Some of you has been today or yesterday. And some of you, it's probably been years since you've taken a punch. Do you even remember what it's like? That's safety culture at work, right? That is them driving people away from the things that make you dangerous. They put fear of the commonplace into everyday life. Our jobs also remove all possibility of any adventure or risk. This makes most careers into just jobs, just a means to an end to pay bills, instead of something you're proud to do. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't think that you should be constantly in danger at work, that we should intentionally do things unsafe just to make corporations more money. Don't hear that. But think of some of the rules that they put in place in these that are messing with your mindset outside of them too. They tell you it's unsafe to lift more than 50 pounds. 50 pounds. Right? Hell, most of you had children that weighed more than 50 pounds and we're still picking them up. Like, I work out one-handed with small muscle groups with more than 50 pounds. Anybody that works out regularly does this too. I deadlift 10 times that amount. Right? To get stronger, you're going to have to work in hundreds of pounds. You really start getting up there, you'll see 500 pounds or 700 pounds. You know, there are guys out there that do numbers that I can't do that are fucking huge. Thousands of pounds in some cases. And they're telling us that it's unsafe for a human to lift more than 50 pounds? It's insane. Right? So then you see people that are afraid to be outside. Right? They played video games for so long and they live in their dark little basements for so long that they're afraid of the sun. Or they say they don't enjoy outdoor activities, but it's a fear thing. They are scared of their inability to just be outside and do stuff. Let alone do something difficult like go hunting or camping or other outdoor activities, right? There's this aversion in modern society to outdoor activities because it might be hot or it might be a little uncomfortable. There's no sense of adventure left. They think going to a new store or a new restaurant in a different city is a friggin' adventure. And it's just not. It's doing the same thing over there. This culture instills fear of small things, such as cuts, scrapes, bruises, etc. You can chase a common man out of the room with a mere threat of physical violence. He is so risk averse and so scared that he will physically wilt to the threat of violence. So if you look at the people that I'm talking about, you all have seen them. You all know what I'm talking about here. They've never been in a violent altercation in their life. They've been taught that violence is some perverse, evil thing, and that nobody should ever be violent. And the only people that are violent are those that are toxically masculine. And this is just not true. Violence is a commodity. Every culture requires violence or the threat of violence to survive. If you don't believe me, look around you. What stops the criminal from doing criminal things to you when you are not a violent person? That would be the threat of violence from the government, or actual violence inflicted upon them by the government on your behalf. Just because somebody else is doing the violence for you does not mean that you do not require violence to survive. Now, for those of you that are listening to my show, you probably don't want the government doing your violence for you, and you damn sure don't want the government to have a monopoly on violence. We need to be able to be violent men. We need to be strong. We need to be capable. We need to protect our own and be able to project our own violence. We need to have control of our own commodity. Getting hit in the face needs not be so scary. Most people can't hit hard enough today to do any real damage anyway. So go practice with your friends. Get some gloves and learn to fight. Why do I say this? Because this is the beginning of an adventure. This is training for real adventure. When you and your tribe know that you're capable of fighting together. that you know how to take punches, that you know that you're strong enough to endure, that you know you have the stamina to continue to fight even when you are winded and tired. And when you know that the men that you are with in your tribe can also do these things because you've physically seen it yourself, it builds confidence in your tribe. And confidence in your tribe is how you get the confidence to actually go out and have these adventures. This culture also instills fear of weapons. Everything that is dangerous is bad. The people that know how to use them, therefore, it must also be bad. Imagine being so weak that being in the presence of a gun could scare you. I know most of you that listen to me don't feel that. But that's what this safety culture is trying to instill. That's a dangerous object, and therefore it must be bad, it must be evil, and nobody should be allowed to have it. Now, let alone that most people that are using it for personal defense and using it for good. I saw a thing the other day. I put a post on my Facebook about it, as a matter of fact, shared a video. But the FBI claimed something like 4 to 6% of active shooters are stopped by civilians with guns. And they did that by skewing the results in their favor, when it's actually closer to like 65 or 70% of active shooters are stopped by the civilians with guns. Now, how do they twist that around? Well, if a civilian with a gun engages and the guy runs away and doesn't actually kill anybody, it didn't count as a stopped active shooter because nobody was injured. Also, if the active shooter does injure somebody and a civilian stops that shooting from progressing, but the guy runs away and then cops catch him later, it still counts as the cops having stopped that active shooter, not the civilian. And then there's just completely unreported cases they don't even put in their stuff, right? So they twist the numbers in their favor. It's pretty disparaging against them just once you see the truth, that they would have to lie so blatantly to make it look so bad, because they can't admit that 60+% of the time that you're saved in an active shooting, it's by a civilian with a gun. Why? Because the guy's already there, or girl, is already there with the gun. The best first responder is you, because you will be at 100% of your emergencies. And you'll be the first one there, I promise. So if you know how to fight back, you have somebody that can fight immediately at your emergency situation. What else is safety culture doing to mess up what we're trying to do here? Well, it emasculates men. Using this fear that they instill, they tell men that they must stop being masculine, because masculinity leads to dangerous behavior, and all dangerous behavior is bad. Being masculine is now considered an insult. It's used as a way to attempt to belittle men because they aren't feminine, and is used synonymously, nearly, with stupid. Especially the term toxic masculinity, right? They believe that if you are strong and fast and capable, that your brain must be somehow less than theirs because you have developed your body. Well, I promise you that to be false. There are a lot of very, very smart people that are very, very strong. Just because you develop your body does not mean that you don't develop your mind. Those of you sitting here listening to me right now are actively developing your mind, learning more things, seeing what's going on around you, building mental fortitude and understanding, right? That's developing your mind. Does that mean that you're not strong because you take time to develop your mind? I don't think so. This is used to try and shame the strong men into becoming weak, to shame the warriors of our culture into becoming the sheep. So why would they want to do that, right? Why would they want to shame warriors and make them more docile? Think about that. We've talked about some stuff like that before, but why would the sheep want to disarm the wolves? Because they know they can't fight the wolf. So what do? They try to take away the wolf's ability to fight so that they get to be more comfortable being sheep. We won't allow that to happen. No longer is strength the measure of power, but appearance. Appearance is the measure of power. It's all about looking a certain way and not about performance. This is due a lot to the Hollywood thing, movies and stuff. If you look online, almost all of your major popular people with a big social following, I said almost, not all, but almost, have a specific look. They starve themselves so that their muscles show more. They have big six pack abs or whatever because they have 0% body fat because they don't allow themselves to actually eat. And if you had them try to deadlift their body weight, most of them probably couldn't. Right now, a lot of them can. There's some very strong people out there that still don't eat and have that particular look, right? But having six packs is not what makes you a warrior. It's not what makes you strong. It's a side effect of a calorie deficit diet. It's all it is. Six packs are built at a dinner table, not in a gym. Nothing about that has any indication of strength whatsoever. It's an appearance thing. But it's been idolized so much that that's what everybody thinks they need to look like to be a strong, virile man, that they must have a six-pack. Well, I promise you that is fucking false. The strongest men in the world do not have them. And they will outstrength anybody you have ever met in your life. I fucking guarantee it. And they do not have six-packs. These men are huge. I'm not talking about fat. I'm talking about just huge, right? But they're not all jacked, ripped, cut up, then looking like bodybuilders or fucking Brad Pitt from Fight Club or whatever. You know, that is not the measure of a man. You do not have to look like a Calvin Klein underwear model to be strong, to be dangerous. As a matter of fact, it is much better for you to focus on your ability to be strong and dangerous than it is to focus on whether or not you have a six-pack. But it's a distraction they feed you. They feed you this and tell you that you have to look like this so that you won't continue to eat enough food to get bigger, so that you won't actually get strong and take care of yourself. Because if you're so worried about the way you look, that you're not worried about the way that you perform, you're no longer dangerous. And they don't like dangerous things, especially dangerous people. They especially don't want you to be dangerous. The measure of man is now to look like an underwear model. Never mind if you can defend your tribe, or move something heavy, or run a far distance. Just starve yourself until you have a six-pack. Anything dangerous is seen as being stupid. Toxic masculinity, as if being masculine could somehow be bad for you and your tribe. Now, why would they want to convince you that being masculine would be bad for you and your tribe? Well, it's because it's bad for them and their tribe if your tribe is masculine. Think on that for a second. Who benefits? Cui bono, right? They benefit by telling you not to be strong because they are not strong. And if you're strong, you are harder to control. All right. Point number 4. Moving away from the mindset of physical strength. It is no longer desirable in modern culture for men to be strong. Strength is seen as a liability and called a sign of toxic masculinity. And this is where the movement, the modern movement, has a little hypocrisy going. Right? There's only 2 types of acceptable for them. There's the really ripped up, super sexy dude that they see on TV that they all want to sleep with and be with, right? But when they see that in real life, typically it's attached to a mentality they don't like, typically. And what they normally wind up with is the soy boy. They want this weak, pathetic, easy to control, easy to manipulate, built out of toothpicks man. They also emphasize appearance over performance in an effort to limit the effectiveness of men. So even those that are strong, they tell them to focus more on how they look than how good they are at doing things. Because again, being good at doing things is dangerous to them. And everything that's dangerous to them must be bad, evil, and no good. The modern safety culture... Sorry, got off a line there. Let me get back to where I'm supposed to be. For those who don't know, I do this show with notes. There's no way I'm doing this off the cuff. But occasionally, I am going to dick up and get in the wrong spot on my notes. So, physical skills are devalued in the safety culture, and almost any career that involves it is paid lower and called an entry-level position. The management class is filled with the lovers of safety culture. They look down on the strong from their position of authority. It's okay to hear. No, excuse me. This is a quote here, and I want to get it right. It's okay that you're here and that you are a masculine man, but you can never be allowed to lead because your way is not right. Wow. One of these days I'm going to get this out. Let's try that again. It's okay that you're here and that you are a masculine man, but you can never be allowed to lead because your way is not the right way. There we go. So, what do I mean by that? And I've seen this firsthand in some places that I've worked. They are okay with strong, hardworking, capable men being at the bottom of the chain. They know they have to have them to get the work done. They know that these types have to exist in order for anything to actually get done. But they create a space for themselves above that tier, right? They want the workers down here, and they want to be up here. And you can't get from here to here because the way you are can't be allowed up here. We're smarter. We know what's better for you. We'll take care of all the decisions. You just go down there and do all that hard work that we don't want to do for less pay at your lower position. You can't be up here. Your way is not right for up here. And it's a sickness going around. People that have never done a job think they have what it takes to lead the people doing that job. And sometimes it's true. If you are a good leader, you don't need to know everything about how to do a job to lead people in that job. But if you've never done anything like it at all you've ever done is a management class, and you think that you're ready to lead people in an active field that requires skill and danger, you are sadly mistaken. Also, look at the heroes of modern shows. They are not the heroes of old. They are typically weak and unskilled. And in these fantasies, they rise to the occasion and become something they have never, ever been. With no time to learn the skills and no great feats of strength, they all manage to win by luck and happenstance. So, there's a few shows, not all, right? We get a few of the lone wanderer shows, right? Like your John Wicks and stuff, where a guy is super good and super skilled, and he goes and does a bazillion things all by himself, and fantasy la bullshit. Those aren't the shows we're talking about. Even though those are bullshit and they're designed to get you to think that you're better off on your own than in a tribe, that's a different problem. We're talking about a lot of the shows now where the heroes are the cowardly and the weak. And somehow they manage to save the day with luck or happenstance, or they outsmart the bad guys even though they don't know what they're doing, and the bad guy to fall for their little ploy would have to have been completely fucking retarded, right? So you see it, and I don't watch this type of TV, so I'm having a hard time pulling an example from memory, but I recognize it when I see it, and I just stop watching the shit, It's just, you see them idolize weakness as often as they can to try and convince you that weakness is the goal, that's the best state to be in, to be this listless thing that goes through life with no goals, and that somehow is going to make you happier than those of us who work hard and have goals. Point number 5. How is safety culture ruining our lives? By removing adventure from life. The safety culture is used to remove adventure from life. We're supposed to be afraid of doing anything mythic anymore. The fear of global warming is used to curtail travel. They use this narrative to try and eliminate internal combustion engine cars, to make you switch to electric, even though that's a fallacy. The electric car is just as bad, if not worse, for the environment, because where does all that electricity come from? Yeah, the power plants, which have way more lax rules because they've been buying our politicians for hundreds of years to be able to make a bunch of electricity in ways that are just as bad, if not worse, for the environment than the car. And these things, they can barely travel 300 miles without a specialized charging station, these electric cars. So it's kind of hard to go far or get out of hand when your vehicle can be shut off by computer and requires a special government subsidized charger to get back on the road. Right? Imagine if you could never go more than a 300-mile radius without the government's permission to charge your car again. That's what they're looking at. Who do you think controls all these fancy chargers, right? I know, Tesla chargers and all this stuff. But you think the government's not going to put their fingers in those and know exactly who is using them and when? You're going to have a little electronic tracking chip in your computer car, and they're going to know exactly where you are every time you plug in. Every single time, right? So, limited range and tracking. That's where the push for electric cars comes from. They're trying to control you. Right now, you can store gasoline. You can put a bunch of it in 5-gallon cans in the back of your truck or car, and you can go about as far as you want to if you plan ahead. And if you use an older vehicle with no GPS technology, they can't tell where the fuck you're at. I promise you, the push for electric cars has nothing to do with the environment. It is a ploy to control you, and that is all it is. The modern safety culture also hates firearms and anyone who knows how to use them. They believe only the police and the military should have these scary weapons of war. You know the people that protect them every day but do nothing for you? You know, we see the people out there surrounded by armed bodyguards with fucking machine guns, and they tell you you can't have your little Glock to defend your life with because it's semi-automatic. Why would people like that do that, do you think? It's because they're scared of you. Right there. You. They don't want you to have a gun. It's because when they do things that you don't like, and they break their oath and they try to violate your rights, you don't need to be able to fight back. That's what they believe. They think their people should have guns to defend them while they do things to you, while they subjugate you. They call holding politicians accountable an insurrection, while allowing the freeloaders to burn cities to the ground in their peaceful protest. This whole insurrection thing has kind of gotten under my skin. I'm not usually super political. I try to stay out of shit. But the January insurrection, where a bunch of people went to the Capitol and tried to hold their politicians accountable, but because they crossed some magical line in a public building, mind you, paid for by your tax dollars, upkept by your tax dollars, to house the politicians that you elect to work for you and represent you. But if you go see them there and try to talk to them there and cross a certain line, they will shoot you fucking dead. Don't believe me? I've got the videos. I know they try to wipe that shit from the internet. I saved them. I have the videos of them shooting that girl in the fucking head right in the middle of that crowd for trying to go too far into the Capitol building. They don't care about you. They no longer see themselves as your representative. They see themselves as your rulers, your kings and queens. A quote from a movie, you've probably mostly seen it, but in The Patriot, they said a really good line. Why would I trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away? When we first built this country, that's not what we had. But that's what it's turned into. It's 3,000 tyrants 1 mile away. These people do not care about you at all. They will never care about you. Even the ones on your side that claim to care about you do not care about you. They care about power. and wealth and are using you to get it, and that's it. The whole system's broken. Stop playing their game. Start building your tribes. Be ready for when this shit all falls apart, because one day it's going to. It is an unsustainable system. It's a false economy, propped up by fake money, created by magic digits by the fucking central bank. Now, why are they doing this? Because adventure is a part of manhood. To stay the type of man that the government fears, you must be willing to go on an adventure. To do something unknown, without knowing what will happen in advance, and be willing to put your health and well-being on the line to do it. War is the ultimate adventure. And after the insurrection, the government is deathly afraid of the warriors within its borders. Now, they found out what a group of people can do when they go to hold themselves accountable and go to hold the politicians accountable. Now, imagine if that had been a group of people that actually knew how to fight and had been there to do something like an actual insurrection. They would have had a lot bigger problem on their hands, right? A lot bigger problem. They didn't have an insurrection. They had a bit of a mob trying to hold their politicians accountable, right? But it damn sure wasn't an insurrection. But they know that too. That's why they're playing this up as big as it is. That's why they're making this huge deal out of it. Because they need extra protection now. Because now they know that if actual dangerous people got there, they'd be in serious fucking trouble. Point number 6. Creating a false sense of danger in every action. To make themselves feel safer, they need men to be alone and scared of the world. By creating a false sense of danger in every action, to stop men from doing things that would make them dangerous. Right? So, by creating this false sense that everything that's dangerous is bad, and if you do this, you will immediately die or be permanently disfigured or whatever, they are trying to stop men from doing the things that make men dangerous. You need to go and learn to be dangerous. Yes, can you accidentally hurt yourself by lifting weights? Yep. Will you recover? Yes. Will you continue to get strong afterwards as long as you don't quit? Yes. I have been pulled muscles and injured and all kinds of stuff before. I have a tribe mate right now who is mildly injured from a pulled muscle from lifting. And we are working around it and getting him through it, and he is getting back in the gym and getting stronger again. That's just part of it. Occasionally you will have an injury. That's going to happen in life. But it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not this catastrophic world-ending thing to have a minor injury. You're going to be fine. Right? But they use this fear, this safety culture to drive you away from doing anything that might cause a minor injury, because doing those things makes you dangerous. And what they're really trying to make safe is them from you so that you're not dangerous. So they tell you not to lift more than 50 pounds. They tell you not to go into the woods alone. They tell you not to learn to make fire or to make your own alcohol or any other thing that might be remotely dangerous, especially to them. Now, why would they say these things? Let's break down each one just a little bit and see. Why would they tell you not to lift more than 50 pounds? Well, you have to lift more than 50 pounds to get strong. Strong people are harder to kill and harder to fight, harder to stop. Strong people are more dangerous. And who they're actually worried about being safer is themselves, not you. Why would they tell you not to go out into the woods alone? They tell you how dangerous it is, right? Well, a man who knows how to do the woods alone is hard to find, hard to track, and hard to predict. You can be just about anywhere. Know how to hide, know how to camouflage, know how to hunt. And if you know how to shoot well, they have to be afraid of that. So they tell you that going into the woods alone is dangerous to keep you from learning these skills so that they don't have to worry about them. Because again, who they're truly worried about being safe is themselves, not you. They tell you not to learn to make fire because it's one of the necessary skills for independence and self-reliance, right? We've been beat into our heads since we were little. Don't play with matches, and only you can prevent forest fires and all this stuff, right? That makes fire seem like this supremely dangerous thing, even though human beings have been using it for millennia. That it's a necessary key to life, that you have access to fire in your homes about any time you want with your stove or your oven. Most of your heat runs off fire. Most of your power generation runs off fire. But fire is this thing that you should never play with, right? And it's because they don't want you to be self-sufficient. Because self-sufficient men are dangerous. And they want to be safe from you. Now, why do you think they outlawed alcohol production? Personal alcohol production. A lot of people think this is a remnant from Prohibition, right? But there's a reason that has never been allowed to come back. Because methanol is a form of fuel. You can distill your own fuel, alcohol-based fuel, from old food. Feed a bunch of yeast to it. It builds alcohol. Strain the crap off, throw it in a still, distill it down, and you get 100 proof-ish alcohol, and it will run a car. You can make all the fuel you want. Takes a lot of time, but if you just keep doing it, you can produce all the fuel you need and run on alcohol. You have to change the stuff around. You have to learn to program the car or tune a carburetor, whichever one you're going to use to run the different fuel. But you can go completely self-sufficient and produce all your own fuel. That's why they don't want you learning to make alcohol. Then taxes. They can't tax you with their sin taxes if you make your own alcohol. They need you going and buying it from the stores where they can charge you a buttload of money extra so that they can steal more of your income if you like to drink. But it's about safety. If they can control your ability to do things, especially travel. Travel is one of the few things that was not listed as a right in the Bill of Rights that should have been, the ability to travel. But their ability to restrict that makes them safer because they're way over there and you're way over here, right? And they surround themselves with like-minded people and big fences and guards and all that stuff. And if you have to travel a far distance to get to them, and a bunch of other people need to be there in a large group for them to be in danger, then restricting travel access by control of fuel and distances traveled and the ability to make your own fuel helps keep them safer. Because again, the safety culture is about their safety, not yours. Now this part, some of you may have heard before and some of you may not, but this is a really good study. I'm going to borrow some of these points from Jack Donovan's book about the Bonobo Masturbation Society. Right? It's a study between the bonobo ape and the chimpanzee, both of which share 99% of our DNA. That less 1% is a big damn difference, don't get me wrong. But they're the closest relatives to us in the animal kingdom. So we can study their two societies and see some differences that we need to look at, right? So one, the bonobo is a matriarchal society, and the chimpanzee is a tribal society. So in the bonobos, everything is run by the women. They're all one big group. That's all there is. One big group of bonobos run by the women. It's mostly the older women, but the women in general. Now the chimps are a tribal society. They form little war bands, basically, tactical squads kind of thing, and they run around until there's a bigger threat, and they need to work together, and a bunch of these groups come together to one super gang, if you will. And then once that's done, they go back to intercompeting gangs of 5 to 10. The life of a bonobo male is service to a leadership group, service to a female, sex, masturbation, and eating. That's all they do, right? They eat fruit. They never hunt. The bonobos only eat fruit that I'm aware of. They may do some small amount of hunting, but like a lot of their diet, the huge majority of their diet, is fruit based. And they have promiscuous sex all the time. The females typically, like something like 75% of their mating is for pleasure, right? And a vast majority of that is female on female, where the men are not invited, the males are not invited to participate. And the males then take care of themselves. So look at the relationship to that and what the culture that they're driving towards in America is now. Right? They subsist almost entirely on fruit. They never hunt. They push away from all meat products. Sounds familiar. They have these huge orgies all the time, primarily only the females. The males being allowed to join in only at specific female requests. And again, sounds familiar, right? We have this drive in the country now where even asking a woman for her phone number can be seen as some big thing and get you in a bunch of trouble as a man, let alone telling a woman that she's attractive. When the men aren't invited, the bonobo males aren't invited, they have to handle it themselves. So there's the correlation there between the influence of pornography on modern society. Right? It's replaced, for a lot of men, it's replaced actual female interaction. It drives your testosterone levels down, all kinds of stuff. It's not good for you to overuse pornography and masturbation, which is part of the Bonobo Masturbation Society study, right? Now, if a male becomes aggressive in Bonobo Society or tries to do something any of the females do not like, all the females gang up and beat the shit out of him, and all the other males just watch, like a lesson. Now, this is another really close comparison to modern society right now. Look at the power of the female groups on social media. Now, they have men in them, right? Men supporting them, but anything that's deemed toxically masculine or unliked by primarily female groups is instantly jumped on and pounced on, and they're gonna fucking cancel your Twitter account or whatever it is that they call it, and dox you and try to ruin your life and get you fired and run things up and figure out who you are and make complaints to your company and everything else, to do everything they can to ruin your life. Right? Because you did something the females didn't like. They grouped up and they beat you up. And nobody was there to help you because it wasn't them getting beat up, and they were afraid of what that group would do to them, so they just watched you get it. Yeah, Bonobo Masturbation Society. Starting to sound really fucking familiar. And that's it. That's her whole life. Eat, sleep, fat. Pick fruit for the leadership. Repeat. Eat, sleep, fat. Pick fruit for the leadership. It's eerily familiar to what they're trying to do to men in this country right now. They want you to go to work. They want you to go home. They want you to eat super processed junk food to be as unhealthy as possible. They want you to dwindle your life away with their friggin' porn and their TV shows and their movies, and you're supposed to just lose yourself into all this digital media, never do anything real, and never do anything they have to worry about. Never be dangerous. Now, let's take a look at the other side and what we can learn from the Tribal Chimpanzee Society. They form hunting parties, hunting groups, combat groups, if you will, and they go out to hunt food, right? They are primarily meat eaters. They do eat some fruit, but chimps will eat all kinds of shit, even some other monkeys. Mostly they hunt. The females stay at home in the range, take care of the children, gather fruits, tend the nest, if you will. Right? And then these chimp groups defend their territory from each other, but if an outside enemy comes in, they band together and defend their whole territory. So they have like a large territory that they live in and like smaller sub-territories within. So, as a case study for the two societal types, The bonobo only exists in a small area of the Dominican Republic, whereas the chimp covers over 21 African countries. They have vastly superior populations and territory in the chimpanzee. They are outcompeting and out-surviving the bonobo way. It is a better way. Strength and that setup works better in nature. But the world is moving towards the bonobo masturbation society model, doing everything for pleasure, gorging on food, fucking anything that moves, and serving a leadership group that exploits them. Don't become part of the bonobo way. Be tribal, be a barbarian, and live outside their accepted rules. So how do we do that? We have to take some necessary risk. I'm going to talk about 3 really quickly types of necessary risk for a tribe. You have to train. You have to learn to be dangerous. Learn to use guns, learn to use knives, learn to use your body, learn to fucking fight in all ways. Be dangerous. Don't listen to them about being safe all the time. Take some risk and learn to be dangerous. Go on an adventure. Get out. Take your tribe and go do shit. Go be outside. Go to a different state, a different part of the country. Go camp, go fish, go do whatever. Right? If you're not huge into the outdoors and you don't want to camp fish or whatever, go somewhere else and do something different that you've never done before and do it with your group. Go take a training class in a different state. Go learn something new. Go do anything dangerous. Go whitewater rafting. Go climb something. Go do anything, but go on a friggin' adventure. And then learn to protect your tribe. Now that you've already fought, you already learned how to fight, you've done some adventures, work together as a tribe to protect your tribal unit. Build something together as a tribe, and then fight to defend it. Work together as a collective to build something together that's worth defending, and then defend it. And that's what I've got for you guys today. So please remember to subscribe. If you're on Facebook or any of that stuff, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit the little bell so you'll know when these friggin' videos come out so you don't miss anything. If you're on my Spotify, check out the polls where we not only get to interact with the show, but also guide what the show may talk about in the future. So I'll put some polls out there about some things you would like to hear my opinions on. You guys go interact with them. Look at what they have to say. Tell me what some topics you would like me to cover are. I'll put them in the queue and I'll start doing some stuff about them. We also have all of our social media, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, right? Patreon, YouTube, Tumblr, we're on all of them. Pretty much everything but, what's that one? TikTok. Haven't figured out the TikTok thing yet. Maybe I will. If you guys want me to use TikTok, put it in a friggin' chat comment somewhere. If I see somebody ask for it, I'll do a TikTok. Otherwise, I'm not wasting my time. But we got the Facebook page. I'll have the link in the description. If you're on Reddit, it's r/modernbarbarianpod. On Twitter, it's @mod_barbarian. On Instagram, it's the Modern Barbarian Podcast. Spotify is where the podcast is mostly hosted from, but we're also on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, etc. Then there's the YouTube page. If you guys want to see me while I talk instead of just listen, you can do this on YouTube. Or if you prefer to use the YouTube player and get the same content, you can just listen to it and not even watch the video. I don't care. Feel free to do this on YouTube. There's the Modern Barbarian Podcast there. We also have a Patreon. Just about out of spots for the initial start there on Patreon. So if you want to get in on the private training and learning to be a barbarian from the Modern Barbarian himself, there's only a few spots left. It's like $5 a month for the first couple. So I've got, I think, 2 spots left for people that want to do that. So feel free to jump in. Go check it out. But that's about it, guys. That's all I got for you. So this is the Modern Barbarian, signing off.